Hello there and a very warm welcome to the program. This is Channels Beam and I am Victor Matthias. There are obvious and perhaps scary signs of climate change, but are Nigerians taking notes? And most importantly, are the relevant government agencies taking actions? Many may consider heavy rains in March, which is generally known to be a very dry season, as a divine manifestation, but fail to realize the impact climate change has on the ecosystem and even the economy. Today on the program, we will be taking a closer look at climate change in Nigeria and also seek to find out how well sensitized citizens are. Finally, we will examine the government's activities in line with ensuring that Nigeria is protecting its environment and indeed its future. But just before doing that, we have to take a look at other trending topics in the social cyberspace.
Jonathan. The wedding ceremony of President Goodluck Jonathan's daughter, Faith Elizabeth, created a lot of buzz on social media in the past week. Faith was adopted by President Jonathan and Dame Patience at a tender age and is the couple's first child. APC. Prominent Christians in the country's biggest opposition party, APC, are allegedly threatening to quit the party over suspicions that the leadership of the party may field a Muslim ticket. This definitely got a lot of Nigerians tweeting.
Well, that's it for this week. Let's now meet our online contributors waiting on the Google Plus Hangout.
Looking back at what is happening in our environment, I can say the situation of climate change and environmental issue in Nigeria starts with individual. And one of the things that you can use to contribute by reducing or taking this away from our environment is for us to take a responsibility and make sure that every environmental issue that we are having in Nigeria should start with whichever. Like, for instance, waste management is something that is very, very key. That's one of the things that cause flooding in Nigeria. So I think one of the things that we need to do, we need to key more into recycling and help us. For me as an individual, I can't get those recycling equipment and stuff like that. But one of the things we can do as an individual is to walk straight to the recycling center in Lagos or recycling center in your city by doing different. You can even set up a recycling bag in your house, which you can take all those things back to the center. And also one of the things again is that we need to put into a lot of education. People don't really understand a lot about this issue, and they're so ignorant of this. So many of them started thinking, okay, fine, people are just using this avenue to just make themselves popular or something.
For me, climate change in Nigeria, it's one issue that everybody should be concerned about, because we are already we are already experiencing the impacts in Nigeria. But totally, I think the awareness on climate change, it's on the increase. People are a little bit having the basic knowledge about climate change. So such programs like this will be able to create more knowledge or create more awareness on the impact of climate change. Climate change, like the name implies, refers to an increase in average global temperature. It's a natural event, and it can be caused by natural events, and human activities are believed to have been contributing to the increased average global temperature. This is caused primarily by the increase of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide. Nigeria is experiencing adverse climate change situations with negative impacts on the welfare of millions of people. Persistent droughts like the one we experienced of late in Benin, we have the flooding issue. Then there's this off-season rains and dry spell that have sent growing season out of orbit on the country, depending on the rain-fed agriculture. There's an alarm bell that is telling us to wake up to the reality of climate change. So there are a lot of things we can actually link to climate change. The effect is real. So it's not what we used to know. So climate change basically is the increase of an average global temperature.
We cannot end climate change, from my own view, because it's something that continues in life and it needs a lot of precaution and a lot of support so that our community and environment can be conducive for everybody. So I think one of the things that we need to do is to call the government in place to make sure that they support this trend, because we've not even seen a lot in Nigeria, talking about other countries. So coming to climate change in Nigeria, we need a lot of consistent support from individuals, starting from us, then we cannot control. But for me, I can say climate change is not something that can be ended now. If we're talking about, yeah, we can only reduce the numbers of emissions and stuff. So
Putting an end to it lies with us. Of course, we can do a lot of things to stop climate change. First of all, we have to wake up to the realization that climate change is real. Then, secondly, we have to start putting modalities in place. For example, we can start planting trees, because when we have deforestation, the amount of greenhouse gases that go to the atmosphere, it's increasing. You will release carbon dioxide instead of you having trees to trap these carbon dioxides, but they just go directly to the atmosphere. Then in Nigeria, another issue that is contributing to climate change is our oil companies. They are the oil extractive companies, where you have production, drilling of oils in the Niger Delta, because they have this way of drilling oil and they flare the gases to the atmosphere. So flaring continuously, it's going to increase the impact of climate change in our country. So one way of doing that is to ensure that the governments live up to their responsibility and the companies stop gas flaring, so we can help in coping climate change.
climate change is not only oil issues and oil spillage. We have a lot of drivers of problem concerning climate change. That is why I always tell people that when you look at climate change, it's a big topic itself, and Nigeria itself is not at the right age for us to say, if I want to stop climate change now. So what I'm saying now is it can only be reduced. It can only be reduced if the government and individual of us come together and see how we can actually reduce this emission and reduce this climate change issue. So talking about oil spillage, they stopped flaring gas, and that one was able to stop. Then we also meet another, climate change issue somewhere else. So we need to just make sure that we reduce this emission.
I agree with Olumide that when he said climate change is not an issue that can be stopped now, but it's an issue we can all strive to bring an end to. So I said in Nigeria at present, if we are really talking about climate change, one of the major thing that is contributing greatly to climate change in Nigeria is the activities of multinational companies in Nigeria. For example, is the gas flaring issue, which they do almost on a daily basis, if I'm not mistaken. If they can stop the flaring of gas in the Niger Delta, at least we can go a long way to help provide solution to climate change. Even if we are not going to stop it now, it will help mitigate the effects to a great extent. So stopping gas flaring, it's one way to provide solution to climate change.
One of the things that always strikes me most is that Nigerians, we have this issue of anything that is raining in the world, we jump into it. So I think it's because climate change is one of the issues that is around the world now. That is why everybody too is now pushing to climate change. And I'm very sorry to say this. Most of all these our international and most of all these our NGOs that is running climate change initiative. Most of them are just running forward because of the international grants. And when this thing comes down, it's a problem. But so talking about the topic of climate change, actually, I always tell people it's an environmental issue. But climate change is a big topic. It's a big issue that Nigeria itself, we are still struggling to solve this issue. So when we start with our immediate environment problem, we'll be able to know how we can tackle the climate change issue. Those things will now be coming on, and the government will also see the needs for them to come into our support and support the people. And everything starts individually with us.
We contribute to climate change because of our human activity, because every day we move from places to places of which we consume fuel that emits carbon. So we also have to, one way to help solve this problem is, first of all, as individuals, for us to reduce our footprint of carbon emission. We can consume organic food, We can also help with creating awareness about climate change within our peers. And at the same time, we can also go a long way to help plant a tree. If we cut down one tree, we should be able to replace it with 10, if I'm not by exaggerating it, but it will be a good start if we can do that. Then our waste, we can also help we can also help to recycle and reuse our waste so that we'll not be able to contribute to the climate issues continuously. So as individuals, we can help create awareness. As individuals, we can help reduce our carbon inputs on the environment. As individuals, we can help reforest our forests from deforestation.
School, I did a lot of courses under PhD, social science, and what they call it, social studies, and which they took us through a lot of environmental awareness program and stuff. I think the only thing government need to do when it comes to that kind of education is to strengthen the curriculum so that it can cover a lot of, not only reading, not only see, but the practical of it. And I think that's what I can recommend, that the government should strengthen the curriculum when it comes to environmental issues. Because I remember very well I did that when I was in secondary school. I heard about recycling, but I was unable to know what it's all about. I just read it and did the exam and left. So I think what the government needs to do is to strengthen the curriculum and also make sure that they follow up in helping young people that really have zeal in environmental issues so that they can take it over, take it up from there, so that it can be a legacy for them also to find. When I get to my community, I also enlighten my friend. When one tells one, then one tells another. So every one of us should be able to more enlighten about these issues.
The learning curve is surely long, and I'm sure you have learnt a thing or two from that robust discussion. Time for another break, and afterwards, we will be joined by a climate expert and enthusiast, Olumide Idowu.